Sorry. Hi, I'm Elisa with Fractional HR Experts and Fractional Plus. We're here today with Junior Williams, and we're going to be talking about AI. So do you want to kick it off and talk about who you are, what you do, why you love AI, why you hate AI? It could be a completely open session.
To be honest, I'm looking forward to a day when I don't have to say AI anymore, because at this point, I mean, for me anyways, it's ubiquitous. It's in everything I do.
Yeah.
So it'd be like saying, I want to use a keyboard to write an email. It's like, just presuppose I'm using AI. Who am I? I am Junior Williams, and I'm a technologist, lifelong learner, passionate about all things tech. I've had a long career in IT, and IT is very service focused, right?
Yes.
Like you're helping people use technology to hopefully make their lives easier. And it's from that I developed a passion for AI, right?
Very cool.
Because it's a way we automate things, and it's in theory supposed to be giving us time back in our day. It's just that I haven't actually quite realized that yet, but one day, hopefully.
Do you find it gives us time back in our day, or do you think it gives us potentially more tasks and less time because you're able to optimize more?
You know what? Depends how much you care about what you do, right? Like, so some people, it's great because they're like, it's like a new toy, right? And they're like, oh, it does my work for me and it's better than me, so I can finish my work sooner. But if you care though, that's when you're like comparing, your outputs to what you have done in the past, like your own best works or other people, your employees' best works, and you spend a lot of time doing quality control, and then understanding that the AI it keeps shifting, right? So you have your workflows that you're familiar with, but then if you're not controlling the models, and it's like Anthropic or OpenAI, then what are you going to do when you go to use your same workflows and everything is just not coming out the same?
Right? I know, it's really scary. I'm actually very scared about data breaches and like keeping AI out of conversations where it's like compliant or it's super high profile information and all of that. I know everybody brings their AI into meetings. I actually do not. Like I haven't even done it yet. So I prefer to take my own meeting notes and like high profile things. I send messages back and I'm more compliant that way. That being said, I just ordered this tiny little blue device called Pocketed. And it was like a super interesting AI device that all of the data is kept in my AI device. I can lock down the device and use an app. And it was just released like, I think 24 months ago, and then they sold out. It was super cool. And it was actually a Kickstarter. So I actually control my own data and what happens with that device. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. Have you ever heard of it before?
It's Pocket. It's like a little, like a credit card. Yeah, I saw that. So it reminds me of like a micro version of sovereign AI, right? People hear about the term sovereign AI. Essentially, it's the ability to keep your data within your jurisdiction. Right? So if you're talking about in Canada, organizations, whether through compliance regulations, will have to keep their data sovereign to Canadian soil. It's just that, previously what we've been selling in terms of this sovereign capability has kind of also been rendered null and void by legal regulations in other jurisdictions. So by that, I'm talking about the Cloud Act. The United States has the Cloud Act, and this is where cloud service providers and model providers are required to keep the chat transcripts. So you could be on your ChatGPT and in the menus, and there's a section where you can say, don't train the AI on my model, or don't train the AI on my data, and don't retain the conversations. Or you can even request to delete the conversation, delete your account. Doesn't matter. They're going to retain it.
Yeah, I read the disclaimer on ChatGPT, and it basically said that like they can retain anything or search into anything, especially if it's, something was said that might be illegal or this. But then it has like the fine print, and it's like they can deem whatever those things are. So whatever you put into chat is always like viewable, and people should know that, and they shouldn't be putting confidential information into any chat history, even ones that you own your own information. regardless, because if the device goes missing, you can't lock the device down. Like if it's super private information, there's always ways for it to leak, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think like for the most amazing individuals and engineers and machine learning and compliance people that you can pay the top dollar to, you can give them like a $2 million salary. There's always one hacker that will do it for free and they'll break your systems. And like this is their goal in life. And they're like the happiest people doing it. So
Yeah, 100%.
do you have like anything, like any stories about like maybe hacking the AI or like anything that you've seen recently?
I can't disclose. No. So, well, it's true that if you're talking about, so for instance, jailbreaking models, right? So that's jailbreaking a model or doing a prompt injection is essentially to get the model to do something that it wasn't designed to do, either
Yes.
disclose information or perform an action, right? Now, doing that would be against the terms of these policies. That's why I wouldn't opine. But I can say that it's table stakes, even the most advanced models, jailbreaking them. So any business or individual that uses the model has to understand that everything you put into it, that's it. It stays in it. And to give you an example of a prompt injection, right? So most people don't know to turn off the having the provider train on your data.
Okay.
So you can essentially, by asking the right questions, say you uploaded PII, right? Names and phone numbers, right? There are ways to prompt the models that you could literally extract verbatim those names and phone numbers, right?
Oh wow.
Another thing too is that so there's a function in cybersecurity called penetration testing. So
yes,
companies will have ethical hackers break into their systems, identify vulnerabilities so they can be remediated. What I like to see more of, and what people should be considering more of, is what they call frontier red teaming. So that is essentially pen testing your own AI use cases,
yes,
to see what is possible. And this is something that I'm not seeing a lot of companies, even established enterprises, do.
Oh wow. Why aren't they doing it?
You know why? Because okay, so compliance is a driver of security, and compliance always is very behind the times in terms
Yes,
of
it is.
the
Or reactive.
right. It's very very reactive, and that's the case with technology in general. But with AI, it's like it's near impossible to stay ahead of it. So the reason why the companies aren't doing it is because they're not mandated to do it, and they're not mandated to do it because the regulation hasn't been made. Because as soon as you think to write the regulation, and I know because I contribute to these standards, and it's like as soon as we propose and discuss amongst ourselves, like yes, this should be included in the standard, it's either made null and void, or it's just not the most pressing matter. But
interesting. So how could a company do this type of testing and be maybe more profitable? Or is there like a way that you could see could increase the amount of like money flow, sales, deals, like profitability to the company, or is it more compliance based, or both?
well, it's both, right? So I've for a long time now been presenting security as a business enabler, right? Because a lot of things you need to do security right are the things that you need to do to run a well organized business.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, so I'll often draw upon cybersecurity because it dovetails into all these things. But there's a concept of know thy network, they call it, right? And you can also extend it to know thy data, know thy assets, right? Not to get overly technical, but there's something called the NIST CSF, right? It stands for Cybersecurity Framework. Now, again, and I apologize for people who are like, oh, this sounds, but everyone should be aware of this because the NIST essentially has 6 functions, and they recently added a central governance function, right?
Yeah.
So to govern. So if you were applying that to a company, like, do we have a cybersecurity policy? Yes or no? Okay, so if no, then well, you should get on that, right? If yes, all right. So what does it encompass? So then you go to the other functions in this, and it's a circle because it's something that you iteratively improve on, right? So what it is you would identify um, protect, detect, respond, recover, right?
Okay.
Identify your assets, right? You need to know what they are to protect them, right? Once you've identified them, you protect them in the form of controls, right? Once you have them protected, you need some sort of detection mechanism to see if they're compromised.
Interesting.
If they are compromised, you need to respond to that compromise and determine the level to which it's compromised.
Yes.
And then if something was actually breached or broken, you need to recover from it. And that ties into like business continuity planning and disaster recovery planning. But back to your question of how companies can do this frontier red teaming and become more profitable, like something to entice. Well, there are now some certification frameworks. I'm shameless plug, but the AI-UC1 consortium, which is providing a certification framework for companies that use agentic automation, right? So putting that on your website and on your materials, it's like a badge saying that we take your data seriously, and we are doing everything according to best practices, and we continually improve these practices, right? So it's kind of like for consumers out there, right? They can see it, not know what it is, be like, okay, and then notice that the competitors aren't offering these same assurances, and then they might do a little bit of research and make their decision accordingly.
That's interesting. I find that the majority of companies should go through SOC 1 Type 1 and SOC 2 Type 2 just to protect their business, especially if they're over 20 people. Regardless, like I've worked in a lot of SOC compliant companies. I've set up all of the different compliance pieces. I've hired, these teams that would come in, and it's just me and the CEO that know, and we check to see if there's like phishing. We launch like phishing programs. I've launched like red teams and like other things too, and I can't go into the full details, but we've hacked our own systems and then seen how our engineers respond. And we do this just knowing one or two people, and you send out an email, you see how many people click on the link. And turns out a lot of people do. So this is something that I think regardless, people should go through this type of testing if they have a business, because cybersecurity is becoming such a risk now to all businesses. Like your bank can be breached. I think for those in Canada right now, like your banks only cover $100,000. Right? Per account. So if you have millions in there and someone breaches your banking information, that could be gone, and how you recover that. So I know that the government does pay a portion back, but it's not a lot. So things like that make it super important to set up proper policies and procedures. And like my recommendation is like for every business to have some type of plan or to hire and test. What is yours? What are your thoughts around that?
Get help.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like in organizations' defense, you can't simultaneously be concerned with operations and keeping the lights on, and developing pipeline and doing business development, recruiting, all these things, and simultaneously be kept abreast of the best practices for cybersecurity, artificial intelligence. So when I say get help, I mean like consult with an expert, right? And there are experts out there, and you can, a lot of times with these experts, you can start with initial conversations, right? That's where it all starts, right? You can't bury your head in the sand and hope as a strategy that
that nothing's going to happen.
That nothing will happen.
Yeah, I fully agree. Now, you started a company a couple of years ago. Do you want me to can you tell me a little bit about this company, what you guys do, what your team has done, and maybe what you're currently doing?
So, not that I started a company a few years ago. So I incorporated, well, actually, let's take a step back. So I've been a consultant for a long time, since the late 90s, right? And technology consultant. And like I said, I did a lot of work in IT. More recently, I've gotten into doing enterprise architecture, right? So just think systems, right? Interconnected systems, like, people think operating systems and networks and, federated systems, like different organizations sharing certain, systems. But that's what I do. I design the interconnection of these systems to ensure secure workflows, right? But I'm also a researcher. 2 years ago, or actually not 2 years ago, more like 4 years ago, I incorporated Junior Williams Consulting Inc. To provide that you know deep, broad expertise when it comes to all things technology to businesses large and small.
That's
And
amazing.
that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So how many companies have you worked with in the past?
All of them. No, I
Yeah.
mean, like in one way or another, because so I've always been doing operating as a consultant, but then also working with large value-added resellers, systems integrators.
Yes.
And when you're looking at the enterprise channel ecosystem, right? You're dealing with the reseller, the integrator, the distributor, the vendor whose tech that you're integrating. And a lot of times these systems are out in isolation. So when I say all of them, I mean, it's like I've worked with companies in every single vertical. I've worked with companies like Fortune 50 companies all the way down to solopreneurs. So there's the other thing too. And why I'll always, be a consultant, because I don't. It's kind of like a flat hierarchy with me, right?
Yeah.
I treat like megalithic organizations as though I'm talking to an individual, just one person.
Interesting.
Right. So, but yeah, it's my passion. Like I like technology, and I want to help. And it's my hope that if we have enough positive energy, right,
Yes.
in terms of this tech, then we'll be in a better place.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So we're going to wrap this up. Maybe I'll ask you one more final question, and feel free to ask me questions too, or say any final thoughts. My question for you was, you had told me about being a polymath, and I've never heard this before. And the moment you told me, I'm like, oh, that's what I am. And I'm curious to see if you can give me an explanation of that, and then tell me if you're also considered a polymath.
Yeah, so I had never heard the term,
Yes.
but then I came across someone on LinkedIn. I believe his name is Michael Iraqi. He's a Brazilian professor, doctor, lawyer,
Oh, wow.
all the above, and an expert on the topic of polymathy. One thing I've noticed about polymaths is that we tend to find each other. They say like birds of a feather flock together, as
Yes.
it were, right? And tend to like figure out early on that this is what we're dealing with, right?
Yes.
Because not most people are polymaths, right? And so what it is someone who is an expert at multiple domains, right?
Interesting.
So as opposed to jack of all trades, master of none, it's like jack of many trades, master of some.
Yes, very true. So what was your first indicator that I could be considered a polymath?
That you or me?
I guess myself, and then we
Oh,
can talk about you.
Oh well. I think the first one is the fact that, I mean, you have a background in HR, but it's like I think you saw at some point, like, you kind of trace the trajectory and be like, well, it's too myopic, right? Like it's too, like, you understand how the business works
Yes.
in a more strategic sense. And to just be concerned with the human resources aspect of the business would be, um, it wouldn't be good for your mental health, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing with polymath. It's like it's the natural thing, to be curious, and then also to be to want to apply your talents.
Yes.
If you're not applying your talents, it doesn't matter how cushy or secure the job is. Like it won't work.
That's so interesting. I would say you're 100% accurate in all of that, and also boredom. So if I stick within my thing and I can't solve externally, and more of like I have to basically like be like a bird, like zooming out to zone in. So if I can see things from a very strategic level and like look at like all the different pieces that go together that fit or don't fit, then I'm able to solve proper problems, and I want to get to the root cause. So I've always been super curious and always have done this. I'm curious on how you do this, because you're also an expert in so many things.
You know, it, there's sayings like, it's not about the destination, it's the journey, right? And I've been on this journey for so long now that it's like I'm not really sure, except for to say that I have a method. Um, when I'm reading, like
Hmm.
just going back, like um, I can't read something that I'm not aware of and not stop what I'm doing and figure it out. Like
Yeah.
do some extra research. So I think hypotactically, I speak hypotactically.
Hmm.
Sometimes I forget the you know all the tangents I was branching off on. But
Yes.
when it comes to my research,
Yes.
it's like I can't forget because I can't to know that I started something, I'm going to finish it, right?
Hmm.
But I'm also going to go through it like in its entirety and understand every single aspect of it. So that continuous learner kind of aspect
Hmm.
is what feeds the um, I guess wanting to know about a lot of different things. And then the more things you learn about, the more you realize that it all interrelates. So
Yes.
I'm learning about one thing,
Hmm.
but there's takeaways and lessons learned that I can apply to a totally another area. The other thing too is that I'm very much a proponent of this concept of watch one, do one, teach one, right? So
Okay.
so that's basically like, and if you don't use it, you lose it. I'm
Yes.
full of these things. And so the best way to use it is to disseminate that information, break it down
Hmm.
for a wider audience,
Hmm.
because then you further your own understanding. And then the other cool thing is, as you expand your professional network, what
Hmm.
ends up happening is people will catch some of these things that you say, and they'll apply it to their day-to-day life, and they'll progress that thing, that concept, that
Yeah.
notion, and then they'll come back to you and be like, that thing you said 6 months ago, well, it was a game changer, and I took it, and then so I'm learning from people that I
Hmm.
taught things to. So it's not
That's
even like a
amazing.
you know
Interconnected.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
it's not like a student teacher thing. One last thing I'll say is the word wise
Yes.
has a transitive definition of teach and intransitive of learn. So to be wise, you have to
Oh, wow.
both teach and learn.
That's interesting. I love doing both as well. And I love when I can teach someone and then they teach me. I think it's like the most important thing. And also having that relationship of like mentor, mentee, and then upskilling and then mentee can teach mentor. Like I think it's like the coolest thing you can do.
Reverse mentorship. Like
Yeah.
that's like, so for me, I have like hundreds of mentees, right?
Hmm.
But I don't even like using the term. And
Yes.
I always remind them that, because when they're like, thank you so much for time, like, no, like I'm getting out of this as much as you're getting out of this. Like
Absolutely.
time is the most precious thing we have. We're giving each other
Hmm.
time freely. If you are listening to what I'm saying, then you're giving me your attention.
Absolutely. So cool. Like I think even with our HR accelerator, like we like to talk a lot about upskilling people and putting them through a program to like upskill and also accelerate them and teach them everything we've learned so that they can, accelerate faster. So it's something that we do in our programming as well. But it was amazing having a conversation with you today. And I know that we've had
My
so many
pleasure.
great conversations about lots of different topics, wellness, spirituality, just overall types of people, and AI, data, HR,
Yeah.
how to create systems with AI to make my life easier, and lots of other things. So I really appreciate your time. And then I'm just curious to you if you have any questions for me or any final statements and words.
I don't know. It's Friday. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. In all honesty, I think a final comment,
Yes.
if it were. I think, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I think that we need to be um, compassionate to ourselves, because we
Absolutely.
might be our own worst critics, and
Mm-hmm.
to our own detriment at times.
Yes.
Um, and it's much easier for me to say it than it is to follow. But we should probably um, spend less time on our phones.
100%. I'm trying to limit my phone connectivity and I have it go into sleep mode and silent mode like at a certain time now. And I also use an Aura ring. And if I have a day where my recovery is not high, I don't really do that much that day. I will cancel meetings, I'll move things if it's an absolute yes, but I'm like, my body is telling me by data that today is not the day. So I completely agree with that.
So okay, I have a question for you. I
Yeah,
got a
go for
question for
it.
you. So what do you do like to keep physically fit? Because I've noticed that like there's a mind body thing where it's like, if I don't take care of my body, then the
Hmm.
mind kind of just disintegrate. So what do you do? Because you're obviously on point,
Yeah.
so you must be
Um,
doing something.
so I eat a lot of meat. I do for
Yeah,
exercise
because I
and
was
like
basically saying
well-being.
that you are, you know, mentally on point. So you must
Mhm.
be doing something to keep the body also on point.
Yeah, so I do a couple of things. I look at things as the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and then like the exercise and well-being. About 8 months ago, I got really sick. I got long COVID. My body kind of gave out, and I was having some bizarre things happen. And turns out I had some heart condition and long COVID. So my body was very sick. So I took a lot of time, a lot more sleep. I don't think I've ever slept so much in my life, sometimes like 12, 14 hours a day
Oh,
for
wow.
full recovery. I stopped exercise altogether and would just do walking. I was getting dizzy and POTS and some weird things. So I deal with my clients. If I had a bad day, I would just do nothing. So I had this time, and I know a lot of people are actually going through this right now, where I got sick. Something happened. COVID triggered my immune response. I started doing dead hangs like multiple times a day, and that helped my nervous system calm down. It actually helps separate the spine, and then it resets your nervous system or your vagus nerve. I did, you take your finger and you're able to do a jaw release, and like that helps reset my nervous system. I'm actually able to see my heart or my HRV drop like tremendously by doing that. And I yawn every time I yawn, and I can tell like, oh, my nervous system is now shifted from like, flight and fight to sleep, rest, and recovery. And I walk a lot. I do a lot. I also travel a lot to the sun. So a lot of our winters we're gone for chunks of time to be in the sun.
Yeah.
For I guess overall working out, I have done about 15 years of kickboxing and boxing. So I hit a lot of
Oh,
bags. I used to train relatively competitively. Now I'm getting back into my whole training. I'm probably going to be doing Krav Maga. I'm going to be doing regular boxing around the corner, and just lifting and running, like running, spinning, lifting, playing pickleball with our team. And you're invited to come if you'd like to come with us. And then I ride horses. So I'm getting back to horseback riding and yoga, just kind of lots of things. How about you?
sounds fun. I am active about 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
It's wild. I went on a bike ride yesterday. It was my first ride of the
Mm-hmm.
year, like 27K. Um, but that's actually been my problem. So I have difficulty with working out indoors,
Mm,
because I find it very unnatural, and I
yeah.
also have like some respiratory sensitivities.
Yes.
So I like to, when I'm breathing heavy, be breathing outside.
Yes.
But I'm also, I don't say averse to the cold, but it's just seasonally affected, right?
Yeah.
Less daylight equals less want to be outside, and then
Mm-hmm.
as a result, I get more into the, mental preoccupations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gain, 10, 15 pounds every summer. And then in spring, I start getting on the bike, and yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I find too, a lot of us in the winter, we hibernate.
Yeah.
Like that's what animals do. It's darker, we sleep more, we rest more, we do the things that we love around fire.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy spending my winters and chunks of time in the sun. And I feel like I belong in the sun. I'm like a lizard with like under those hot lamps.
I feel like I'm solar powered, to be quite
Yeah.
honest. Like, because when the sun is shining,
Yeah, you
it
have
doesn't
all your
matter if I'm
energy.
like, I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, I'm not anything. I'm just like
Yeah.
on
You're good
go.
to go. But it's like
Yeah.
it's cellular metabolism, and it's also, energy for your cells and your mitochondria. So I feel like a lot of us don't have that. And something that I do to biohack when I am here is I use red light therapy. So I have a huge panel, sit in front of it for up to 20, 30 minutes a day. It helps your skin, it gives your cells energy, and I get my daylight. And I feel like I literally walked off the beach. So highly, highly recommend it. You can feel free. I'll bring you to a place and you can try it. And it's super helpful for like the longevity through the winters.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. This
Thank
was
you
a
for having
really
me.
cool chat. So we're excited to
Absolutely.
have you again and chat about life and work.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Thanks. Done.